going to turn to page 91 in your history textbooks. Wake up, Larissa.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now, Larissa, you read the first paragraph.
Do you mean the one about the social structure?
Uh-huh.
By 2200 BC, Egypt had about 2 million people. At the top of Egyptian society was the pharaoh. Just below him were the upper classes, which included priests and key government officials. Many of these priests and officials were nobles or people from rich and powerful.
Wait! Larissa, don't go on. Class, you write down the definition of nobles.
Yes, Miss History.
Larissa, continue reading.
Yes, Miss History. Below the nobles was a middle class of lesser government officials, scribes, craftspeople, and merchants. Egypt's lower class, about 80% of the population, was made up mostly of farmers. During flood season, when they could not work in the fields, farmers worked on the pharaoh's building projects. Below farmers in the social order were slaves and servants.
Could everybody hear her over the rain?
Yes, Miss History.
All right now, Tanya, you go ahead to page 99 and read the whole paragraph about scribes. Got it?
Yes, Miss History. Other than priests and government officials, no one in Egypt was more honored than the scribes. They worked for government and for temples. Scribes kept records and accounts for the state. They also wrote and copied religious and literary texts. Scribes did not pay taxes, and many became wealthy.
A little louder next time, but thank you. Now, Maria, you read the part about Egyptian women on page 100.
All of this, Miss History?
Yes.
Egyptian women. The pharaoh's queen and daughters also wore splendid clothes, jewelry, wigs, and makeup. The queen was not the ruler's only wife. Each pharaoh had a harem, a large group of wives. The queen was the head wife, with statues and privileges above those of the others. This situation reflected the fact that the other ancient lands, Egypt was male-dominated. In general, a woman had to do her husband's bidding.
All right. Which one of you students hasn't read?
I haven't read yet, Miss History. Planting and harvesting. For Egypt's peasant farmers, the Nile's repeated rising and falling provided a way to measure time and the seasons and plan activities. They recognized 3 seasons. The first was Aket, the inundation, when the river's waters rose and covered the land. It lasted from July through September. Next came Peret, which began in October when the waters retreated from the land. From then until February, farmers planted their seeds. The soil was so soft and rich that most farmers did not bother plowing first. Instead, they spread their seeds on top of the soil, then they used their plows to turn over the earth and cover them. Some farmers never plowed at all, choosing to bury the seeds by letting their sheep and pigs trample the soil. Barley, wheat, and flax, used to make clothes, were the most plentiful crops. From February to June, the season called Shimu, the farmers harvested these crops. Using wooden sickles, lines of reapers marched along, cutting down the weeds. Gangs of women and children followed them and gathered up the felled stalks into wicker baskets. As they toiled, they sang work songs, one of which went, "Fair is the day dawning on the land. A cool breeze is rising from the north. The sky remains clear according to our wishes. With a steady hearts let us toil on."
I will read this next part, the one about a humble peasant home, on page 105. Please turn to that page in your books and follow along. A humble peasant home, almost constantly busy with field and construction work. The peasants must have spent relatively little time in their homes. At least, this way was true for men. The wives who baked, cooked, and looked after the small children likely spent more time indoors. The walls of a typical peasant house were made of mud bricks. The ceiling consisted of bundles of plant stems, and the floors were hard-beaten earth, sometimes covered by straw. Such a dwelling had 1 or 2 small rooms in which the occupants slept, cooked, ate, and quartered their animals. Well, class, that is it. Class dismissed.